here. Is that true?
In fact, Les, since this is Ask Us Anything, I was visiting a friend at Bay Medical Center, walked in, and this very nice lady said, "Are you with Perry and Young?" And I said, "No, but I'm on LawCall tonight, so please watch." So hello to that really nice lady at Bay Medical Center. Super nice lady.
Yeah, well, I get asked that question a lot. People in Publix or people in grocery stores or whatever. Hey, I watch your show all the time. It's funny, but we certainly appreciate all the viewers we have out there that watch us every weekend. And tonight we're answering any questions you might have that have to do with the law. Let's keep them legal, please, not just any question. Something's got to be off base, but we're taking those questions live. So if you got a question about personal injury or real estate or divorce or disability, whatever it may be, Doug and I will do our very best to try to answer those questions, and we got a good team lined up here to do that tonight. So give us a call. Again, the number is 850-392-1544. And Doug, I know you've been on the show a lot. I think you've actually referred to yourself as
the Alec Baldwin, but I'm scared to say that anymore because Alec got in trouble for that, thing.
Yeah, we might have to find a new person to go by. But you're a frequent guest. But go ahead and tell the audience out there. Tell us about you, the type of law you practice, where you're at right now, and all that.
Oh, thank you, Les. It's a pleasure being here again. I'm with Burke Blue. We have 14 or 15 lawyers. We're a general service law firm. We do. I specialize in civil litigation, real property law, things like that, but have partners who do the probate and estate planning, and we cover the pretty broad bases and things. And I know your firm, Perry & Young, of course, specialize in personal injury and are very good at it. And you also specialize in sponsoring a lot of good charitable works around town, and we appreciate that. Thank you again for sponsoring BCYSA. Youth Soccer League. We have you on the jersey.
Very good, very good. I came up in when the Bay, or it wasn't Bay United, it was Bay Youth Soccer.
Okay.
Gosh.
So you were a player.
I was a player back in the day back in the day, and about 70, 80 pounds ago. I played soccer. I grew up playing soccer. A lot of my friends, lifelong friendships formed there. I actually played in the Cove. Okay. My dad was the principal of Cove Elementary, and so we lived on the east side of town, but I would ride to work with him, and soccer field was real close by. We had a guy named Adam Killick who was our coach, a guy from England. And we had a really good team. And there's I don't know if they're watching tonight, but we had some good guys on that team. Myron Guilford, who's with the Sheriff's Department now.
Yeah, Myron's in Columbus with me. He's a great guy.
Stephen Kane, who's a trial lawyer down in Miami. Willie Jackson, he's living out in Oklahoma now. Willie was one of the fastest guys I'd ever played with and against, because I went to Rutherford, they went to Bay, and so we had some good times, but growing up, big fan of youth sports and youth soccer around here.
Good rivalries there, good rivalries.
But we can talk about sports, we can talk about high school, or we can talk about legal questions. So again, give us that call or shoot us an email if you're a little bit shy to come on camera. The email address is up there on the screen. It's lawcall@WMBB.com, or that call number is 850-392-1544. And Doug, I believe we have our first caller tonight.
Well, let's hear it.
This is from Dexter. Go ahead, Dexter.
Yes, sir. I want to know, do y'all handle class action lawsuit where you don't want to be involved in the class action, you don't want to do it separate?
Dexter, what type of class action lawsuit are you talking about?
It's dealing with telephone company Verizon.
Okay, all right. Have you heard that there's some sort of a legal action, an existing class action that's going on against them right now?
Yes, sir. They have also contacted me and tried to offer me $100 to
I see.
handle it. Yeah.
All right. So and Dexter, thank you very much for the call. So generally speaking, class action lawsuits, we see them over a variety of products. Sometimes it's consumer services. One of the most often times we see a class action is dealing with pharmaceuticals, where people have realized, after the FDA process, that the drug may have some very adverse consequences. There's currently a class action lawsuit right now going against the manufacturer of earplugs that were given out to the military, men and women in the military, and are now suffering hearing loss because those earplugs were defective in their design. And so when you have a class action lawsuit, it's typically you have a lot of people that suffered from the same injury or the same harm. And oftentimes they end up in federal court in what's called a multi-district litigation. Now, if you are a member of the class, or if you are somebody that has a similar injury or a harm, you generally have a couple of options. And class actions isn't something that I typically do. However, our firm has always helped people that have been involved in class. We're dealing with Camp Lejeune cases right now. That is a class action lawsuit. Men and women who were stationed at Camp Lejeune that might have had injuries or developed illnesses from the drinking water, and they've now found out that it was contaminated, and people have suffered some major illnesses and injuries, and a lot of people have died from cancers that followed their being stationed at that base. And so you can elect to become a part of the class, or you can maintain a claim outside of the class. The problem with that is, and I hate to sound cynical, but there's a lot of people that go into the class, and then there's a lump sum of money that has to be there to pay out whatever the claim is. The lawyers have to be paid, the court costs have to be paid, the experts have to be paid. And a lot of times what ends up happening is you may have a claim, but your recovery is going to be very limited whether you're a member of the class or not. It really just depends on the degree of the injury. Now, Dexter, to get to your question, you're talking about what sounds like a consumer complaint. Maybe I don't know if it was they were overbilling, or maybe they promised something, or maybe they hit you with some charges that you weren't supposed to get. Typically, the recovery for the class or the individual maintaining their own claim is going to be fairly nominal. $50, $100, something like that. There's a set amount. Somebody out there watching may have received something from an auto manufacturer about a product recall, a defective seat belt, or the airbag or something, and they offer the settlement for the class, if you were part of that, was to fix it or to offer you a fairly nominal amount. So you don't always have to be a member of the class. I think being a member of the class basically takes the guesswork out of it. You don't have to hire a lawyer, you don't have to hire experts, but your claim goes as the class goes. So if there's a successful recovery and there's a payout, they typically will end up yielding some benefit. But the only time I think it ever makes sense to pursue something like that, or if you have a unique claim, like a Camp Lejeune, now you have cancer, you can show it. That is a much different type of recovery that we're talking about. So, Dexter, I'm not exactly sure what the wrong was that the phone company did, but the outcome may be that it might be in your best interest. It's just something somebody'd have to take a look at. You're absolutely welcome to give us a call. We can certainly help you find information about that class, the lawyers that are handling it, and if necessary, we can make an appropriate referral for you. But I appreciate that call.
Yeah.
Doug.
Interesting. Well, class action, interesting area of law. And I think like your firm, Les, when a potential class action case comes in the door, a lot of times you co-counsel with firms that specialize in class action, maybe firm in Tallahassee, say, or something like that, right, if it were sort of Florida specific. But think of the class actions we've seen over the years, the big tobacco settlement,
right,
and and it's true, a lot of these consumer things, like there was a charge being put on by this company, the people in the class, get their 50-cent vouchers, but the lawyers
do very well. Oh yeah, yeah.
So, and that's not always.
It really isn't. The one thing I can think about, if you watch a lot of daytime TV or even late at night TV, you see these advertisements from law firms that talk about, have you taken this drug, or did you have this earplug, or did you have this or that, or whatever it may be, call this number. And then if you read the real fine print at the bottom, it'll say, this person probably isn't admitted to practice law in the state of Florida. They're advertising in Florida, right, but they're not admitted to practice here, because what they do is they're kind of the clearinghouse for those sorts of claims. And what they're hoping to do is to partner with law firms in all 50 states to sign people up who will then refer them to that lawyer that will then advance the interest of the class. I mean, that's how a lot of this goes. And for those consumer type wrongs, again, I've seen a lot of them. Most of them end up yielding a fairly small recovery. But the tobacco lawsuits, the
Opioid.
the opioid lawsuits, the breast implants back in the 80s, you know, those are some pretty big class action lawsuits where people had very serious injuries and there were some very significant recoveries. So it's like anything else. If you've got a question about that, if you think you have a claim, best thing to do is to call a lawyer and follow their advice and how to handle it. We do have Jonathan on the line for our next caller. Jonathan, understand you got a question about alimony.
Well, the question is not just alimony. I've lived with a lady for 25 years, and we weren't married, but we were in a relationship for that long, and I spent quite a bit of money. And also, of course, you know, the living expenses and all that. Who cares about that? But the point is, what are my options, my recourse, whatever, to obtain my furniture and whatnot?
So, Jonathan, I've got a kind of an off-the-wall question. Did you happen to move to? You were with this lady for 25 years, right? Has it always been in the state of Florida, or have you lived in any other states?
Yes, state of Florida.
Always been in the state of Florida. Okay. Reason I asked that question is because I was actually going to try to find out if there might be like a common law marriage type of a thing. All right. So generally speaking, if you're not married, there aren't any. There's no marital property. What's yours is yours. What's hers is hers. When you are married, you commingle things, and you know, if you're married for a sufficient amount of time, what's yours is your wife's, and what's your wife's is yours. And that's where a lot of the divorces, when people get divorced, there's always a big fight. You know, well, this is mine, this is yours, unless there were efforts made to keep the assets separate bank accounts. You know, I kept a record of all these things that I bought with my money from my bank account, therefore it is my property, and you can try to do that, although that doesn't really happen a lot. The reason I ask you about living in the state of Florida is because Florida does not recognize common law marriage, but Alabama does. And because of the federal full faith and credit clause, if you are recognized as married in one state, then other states in the union agree to recognize that. So even though Florida doesn't recognize common law marriage, if you had lived in Alabama and you had agreed, okay, yeah, we're together all this time, let's be husband and wife, you could be married, and then that marriage would have to be accepted in the state of Florida if you moved here. And the common law requirements are cohabitate, hold yourself out as married, things of that nature. But that's not your issue, Jonathan. I think, you know, I don't practice in the area of family law. I've got a lot of friends that do that could probably be better suited to answer a question like that. But my general sense is that if you're not married, there is no such thing as marital property. What you have is yours. What she has is hers. And you should be entitled to take all of your property back. Now, what you spent, that's probably, I mean, there's probably very little chance of getting anything back. Or if you've gifted something, that might be different. But I believe, you know, you've retained your own property because you were never married, and therefore none of your stuff was ever subjected to becoming marital property.
Yeah, and that sounds about right to me too, Les. I also plead not guilty. I'm not a family law lawyer, right. But at my firm, Burke Blue, we do have a family law division. You know, Graham Clark, Clark Rogers, Matt Hutt. Right. So, you know, that if those issues come into play, and I think you correctly said that if it's just an issue of personal property, which is furniture and things like that, you would look at where the money came to purchase it, because, you know, things like that, you don't have a certificate of title for a couch. You do for an automobile, but right. Not a, you know, certain things. So, you know, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's not, may not even involve family law, frankly.
I'm not sure that it does. I don't even think there's a right to alimony if you're not married.
Oh, no.
Or anything like that. Not any, there's no spousal support because there's no spouse in that situation. So I think you're probably good to stake a claim on your stuff without any headache. But if you do have any other questions, give us a call. We can get you pointed in the right direction. We're going to go ahead and take our first break of the night. But again, if you have a question, give us a call. 850-392-1544, and we'll be back in a few. Thanks for staying with us. Law Call, we're taking your calls live on the air tonight. If you have a question, give us a call, 850-392-1544, or drop us an email at lawcall@wmbb.com. And during the break, we actually picked up another couple callers. Let's go with Hamilton from Dothan. He's got a criminal law question. Go ahead, Hamilton.
Yes. Let me ask you something. Okay, a guy was found not guilty of a charge that he didn't do. It was perjury made, but at the end of the day, the state picked it up and gave him 45 years. The county said he was free, found not guilty, but the state came and they gave him 45 years for the same charge.
Okay. And did this happen up in Alabama?
Yes.
Okay. Is this person still serving time?
Yes, he's still doing 45 years.
What were the charges?
Assumed that he was messing with his stepdaughter and wasn't. He got on the stand and lied. They got the paperwork saying that she lied, perjury, and he was free to go.
Okay.
And so while he was out free, the state came and picked him up and gave him 45 years. The state gave him 45.
Okay.
The county, he was found not guilty.
Okay. Now, all right. So, Hamilton, I hate to give a caveat on this. I'm not admitted to practice law in Alabama, so I can't speak to what the law is up there. And when you're talking about found not guilty by the county, but then the state picked up charges. What I do remember, there's a couple things that jump out to me. Number one is double jeopardy. Mm-hmm. Under the Constitution, you can't be tried for the same crime twice. So if there's a trial and you were adjudicated not guilty, they can't come back and try that same case against you. However, if there are some cases where there may be state violations and also federal violations, and you could be prosecuted by either the state authorities or by federal authorities. And
that does happen.
And that does happen a lot. And so, I've seen situations where people have beaten state charges, but then were picked up by the feds. Now, it's not the exact same charge. It may be a derivative of the same act. And so it's not technically double jeopardy, but typically you're not allowed to be tried for the same crime twice. And if you've been adjudicated not guilty, you're not supposed to be picked up again, unless there was some miscarriage of justice, or there was some, jury misconduct or something that would have rendered the first trial invalid. That's not typically you see, but what I would recommend, if this person is serving time right now and they were adjudicated not guilty in one court but then picked up by another court, that's something that a lawyer that deals with criminal appeals is probably going to want to take a look at, because you're not supposed to. You're protected from double jeopardy from being tried twice. But it almost sounds to me, and the nature of the crime that you're talking about, I can absolutely see there being both state law issues and federal issues. And if that's the case, if the state said, well, we don't have enough evidence, but then the feds came in and they charged them with something else, even though it might have arisen out of the same act, I think that's certainly a possibility. I mean, I can't think of any other situation where you would have one court say you're not guilty and then you get convicted by another court of the exact same thing. That's not something I've really ever heard of. I mean, the Constitution prohibits it. So,
very unusual set of facts.
It is, and probably something. As they say, the devil's in the details. And so, I would recommend talking with somebody who specializes in criminal appeals that can maybe answer those questions. And I appreciate you calling in, Hamilton, with that question. All right, let's go to Mike. Mike from Mariana. He's got a question, a property law question.
Yes, sir. I was want Doug's question for Doug. I seek counsel. My pop had passed away. Long story short, there's a house, half of it I inherit, and the other half his sibling inherit. And same attorney that sent me a paperwork, they saying that a lawsuit has been filed against me for this particular property. And number one, I want to know, since I paid this attorney, let's see, it was August of last year, and he told me I could move in, no problem. Half of the house is mine. And now I've received paperwork saying that that sibling is going to sue me. So would that be, number one, a conflict of interest? And then what would be the outcome with a case like this?
All right, so Mike had a family member that passed away, left him some property, but he co-owns it with a sibling. I'm assuming he and his sister are legal heirs.
Yeah, I didn't follow all the facts as to whether, in fact, the two are, related but I mean, the bottom line is, if he's been served with a civil action, and who knows what it is, maybe a homestead claim, maybe, or something like that. Who knows? He needs to consult with a lawyer,
right,
to look at the lawsuit and make head or tail of it. And I didn't quite understand the facts of who was who there.
So Mike, if we could get some clarification. So you inherited half of a house along with your sister, correct?
It was actually my father's sister, so that was my aunt.
Okay. Did your father, when he passed away, did he have a will?
No, sir.
Okay.
No will.
So that
sounds like intestate succession.
That sounds like an issue.
Normally.
Now again,
yeah.
This is more in Doug's wheelhouse, but my understanding is if you die without a will, you die intestate, and then the statute dictates how property is to be distributed. And the distribution of property is typically a up and down thing. Kids, if no kids, grandkids, if no kids, no grandkids, parents. It typically doesn't go out to the siblings, though.
Unless you don't
have these
else.
others.
Yeah.
And typically, siblings typically share with siblings.
Yeah.
But do siblings share with aunts, uncles?
I would say normally no, but once again, got to see the lawsuit. Just have to see it and see what the facts are, because that would normally be very unusual for an aunt, as opposed to Mike, being in line. But the fact there's a lawsuit makes me wonder, are there other facts we don't know? We'd have to see it.
Right, yeah. It's something that, we definitely need to see the lawsuit in order to know exactly what direction it is.
And the conflict of interest issue, I don't even know about that, but the point is, Mike needs his own lawyer to look at this.
You definitely do. So it sounds to me like the estate has a lawyer, a probate lawyer, that's handling the matters of the estate. But what sounds to me, what you're talking about, Mike, is a dispute between heirs. Mm-hmm. And so in that situation, the estate lawyer would not be able to counsel you any more than the estate lawyer could counsel your aunt, because you're both heirs and you have a dispute against each other. And this lawyer up here, his job is to represent the estate. You need somebody to represent you. And so I don't know that it necessarily, I think it would be a conflict, because the attorney for the estate can't be biased for one heir in favor of another. Right. So that would be a conflict. So yeah, Mike, I would definitely say reach out to an attorney and take a copy of that lawsuit. Be mindful that usually an answer is due within 20 days of the date it was served. And so if you don't have an answer filed to that lawsuit, you could have some repercussions, default judgment. You don't want that. Right. All right, we got to take our last break of the night. We'll be back shortly.
4, 3, 2.
All right, welcome back. We talked a little bit too much. And so now we got to go straight to shout outs. And so Doug, I'll turn it over to you.
Let's do it. Okay, a couple weeks ago we had those horrible tornadoes. We were thinking of the hurricane. Oh my gosh, I hope everyone is okay from those. If you need any help, both our firms do that kind of stuff, but God bless you. I hope no one was hurt in those tornadoes. Shout out to Carol Roberts. Congratulations on your retirement. You've been a shining light for the chamber. I throw it to Les.
All right. Miss Pam, giving you that shout out like I always do. My mom and dad, the staff at Perry & Young, you are the best in the world. Thank you for everything. My beautiful wife, Jen, Rick at the Marlin, and if I forgot you, I'm sorry, but I'm running out of time. Y'all take care. God bless, and we'll see you next week.
And I love my staff too. How about that?
Yes.